Hi, Rocky. Thank you. I was hitchhiking up the California coast, and there's a picnic table at the end of Point Reyes that I slept under on the windiest night of my life. I'm from a part of Pennsylvania where my childhood straddled the coal mines and now the gas mines. I live in an old schoolhouse between Tunkhannock and Montrose in Susquehanna County, where for the past 3 years I've been hitchhiking up and down Route 29, conducting interviews with whoever picked me up. The gas workers stop. It's in the heart of our Pennsylvania fracking region. And the gas workers pick me up, the landowners pick me up, locals pick me up, the redneck locals who want to kneecap the gas workers with baseball bats pick me up. And I hear stories of the entire occupation, the entire infusion of the gas industry in the beautiful rolling hills of the endless mountains. And underneath the noise from both the environmentalists, the activists, and the industry, I knew there was more than two sides of this story. I'm going to read to you selections from both worlds, hopefully to tell a story. The coal mines and the gas mines. A woman's body grows to resemble the rolling contours of the earth, and a man's face grows to resemble her stony crevices. This goes way back. A vision wrought with echoes, Abraham said in both the Bible and Quran. We spoke a dead language when we arrived, poured our lungs into tin pails, and tossed what breath was saved back to the sea. Our behavior was harsh, confused as if we'd been set afloat for years without stars. We built a house out of barrels, draped the bent window with mice and the flat-handled backs of scoops for the furnace, slabbed a thin coat of peeling rust above the door. Our women dressed in finest smell of cabbage and linen brought over with us, woven from black cigars. There were shovels and round helmets with light. We were told, rescue the still living washed undershore. Our names were shaved into pure white robes. Our tremendous wings grew inward like the two end tines of a fluttering pitchfork. Emile Zola wrote this wonderful book, Germinal, from the French coal mines. And while I was living in the town of Shamokin, wandering the hills and the abandoned railroad tracks, the view to the right was blocked by the slag heap. No, Emile. The view to the right is the slag heap, rising colossal like a giant's earthwork, consumed by an inner fire that has been burning with dense smoke, and as it burned has left long trails of bloody rust on the surface of dull gray shale and sandstone. from Germinal. I just need a small room with a bed, room enough to not avoid myself, and a town the mirror image of how I'm feeling tired, but full of guts for what I don't know about anything. Out of distance to the Sulphur Creek, I leave the bathwater running and fry those scabby apples from the tree alongside the creek with rice. Becoming mind slag, Emil. Your eyes will be the first sign of dingy soot grown dim, then darker shale in a gaze of two round bones staring black into their gutted heart marrow. The open vowels of your speech fill with a garbled native soil, with the endless longing to lie smoldering in a white bed of coals, shadow to a heap of cindering teeth. I would spend long days wandering around the hills, looking for who I would have become if I hadn't left home out of high school. Looking for my face in the face of the abandoned mine shafts, in the abandonment. January 22nd, the Susquehanna River burst through the roof of the Knox mine up from Wilkes-Barre, flooding the entire honeycomb of mines throughout the lower northern anthracite coal field. 12 miners dead, thousands of miners out of work forever. I was 7 years old. Within 5 years, our textile industry had moved south for cheaper labor, thousands of mill workers out of work, or moved out of the region forever. I inherited the black star hole through each one of these window panes. I inherited the voices and attitudes of the men and women who were shut down and abandoned. A tremendous anger, a tremendous silence. One high school student, after listening to me read my poems about the gouged earth, gouged people, sulfur creeks, and mountains of slag, asked me if I was an environmentalist. I flipped off the lights, opened the window, rearranged my chair, hacking and smoking. That image came from my buddy Bobby Zenkel, who used to play the clubs. I don't know if anybody out there remembers Bobby. He's probably still out there. But he used to play the school gigs. And he was in an elementary school one time after playing all night long in the club. And he's trying to show them what the saxophone can do and what jazz is. And that riff, how he just take off. And he just put the saxophone in his mouth and it just took off. He flew and he just went up and out and all around the auditorium, mesmerizing the kids. And when he brought it back down, he came to rest and he just took the axe out of his mouth, reached into his shirt pocket, pulled out a smoke and fired it up. Like you do, but like you don't do in school. I was living in the Yumka Hotel in Wilkes-Barre, the YMCA. And I spent a whole afternoon up over Edwardsville, and I found a mine shaft that wasn't cemented, and it was a beautiful hole, dark, and of course you imagine everything else that lives in there beyond the rats and the rotted timbers. But I came back to my room and I wrote this poem. It's called Uncovering the Mine Shaft. By accident we stumbled upon the last breath and knelt down, our one good ear tight against its lips and rotted teeth. We could not tell if it was night or the eclipsing sun, but from somewhere deep within its wound we heard drums and a circle of clapping bones closing in. Again the woolly mammoth being roused from its black slumbering dust. Crude figures of men with sticks and mudsling barrows illumined the cankerous mouth. Well, this poem was published in a literary magazine in Scranton, if you can imagine. And months later, I'm walking across Public Square in Wilkes-Barre, and my buddy Richard Aston was walking across, and he came up to me, he says, "Hey Craig, it was a goddamn good poem I read in that magazine in Scranton about writing poetry." I said, "Thank you, Richard. I worked really hard at that." And when I said goodbye to him, I went back to my room at the Y, rummaging through my box, trying to find this magazine, and I'm trying to find this poem, and I'm trying to figure out what in the hell is he talking about. And I'd like to read a poem I wrote about writing poetry. It's called Uncovering the Mineshaft. By accident we stumbled upon its last breath and knelt down, our one good ear tight against its lips and rotted teeth. We could not tell if it was night or the eclipsing sun, but from somewhere deep within its wound we heard drums and a circle of clapping bones closing in. Again, the woolly mammoth being roused from its black slumbering dust. Crude figures of men with sticks and mudsling barrows illumined the cankerous mouth. Richard asked me for that ars poetica. 30 years later, I went back up home to find out what all this noise about fracking was all about. And I found some of it. At night from the kitchen window, from the back field near the pond, from your truck swerving potholes, your story augurs deep through a tangle of roots, home or far from home, lit by a tower of stars, written in earth and water with flammable ink. This story has already been written in the insect trails under bark and stones, in the rippling night glow and morning chemtrails, in boot soles and tire treads. Story underneath the story, as trees be my witness, crawling out of its skin, a map water runs through. I'm here, and I've always been here. Springville, Joe's garage across from the sit-home. Even though they told me life was elsewhere, slow string of cars behind tanker trucks, sun a yard above the trees, smell of diesel and fresh mowed grass. Even though they told me no matter how far I'd have to go to make myself here, with my ear against these hills. Carbon and exhaust plume from a dump truck swallows me as I'm writing this in my pocket notebook. Never mind the trucks. I know what it's like to need a quick ride somewhere short. People think my car's broken down or I got a DUI. The old guy pulled into Southtown Market, just sat there in his car looking at me. The mechanic at Joe's garage hollers out, "What you building?" Gas workers pick me up. Farmers, locals, redneck locals who want to kneecap the gas workers with baseball bats. The woman who sold rabbits to Summer House Grill. I never had what my father used to. A woman from the chicken coops whose husband thumbed home out of the service. Who was it I became that split second you decided to pull over? A couple from Oklahoma in a snowstorm picked up a couple broken down with a baby. Bible on the dashboard. His dad hitchhiked back when he lost his job. The company took back their truck. When asked what am I doing out here, I say just bumming around. When asked where am I going, I say, how far are you going? Anybody out there have bypass surgery? I love seeing that stem scar that just comes up through the neckline of your shirt or your blouse. I love seeing that because it's a signal. It's a little sign that you've survived something some people don't. Something serious. Something that no matter where you are in this region, in the heart of fracking, the conversation always comes back to fracking. It always comes around to it. Saying hello to your neighbor is a conversation about fracking. We all know who signed for the gas lease, who gets royalties. We all know how much royalties your neighbor gets, your family member, your friends. And even if you didn't sign, there's always the trucks. The refrain throughout this book is never mind the trucks. Christ, if we started talking about the trucks, we'd be here until the bartender. What do you say you had to go home at 6 in the morning?
6 a.m.
Yeah. Evening sky, diesel blue, purple tinge. Last of the sun burnt white through a stand of maples past the drill rig, then rolled down over the hill. Hayfield mowed into rolls, slit up its gut deep through the shoulder. Pipeline. Tomorrow this gaping trench will be backhoed shut, leaving a long blood rose stem after bypass. If you were to tell me the patient has 100% chance of recovery, I'd plant carrots and onions, a long corridor of sweet corn and cabbages in this scar. End to end, the cemeteries are a feeding tube of bones blanched in the vapors of black poppies. What I want is what others around the world wanted and gave their lives for. To drink from your mouth and say, this is good. Woo. I live in an old schoolhouse, and I don't get cell phone reception. It's like living in the witness protection program. It's wonderful. There's a Little League field up back. To get cell phone reception, I have to walk the hill up back to the Little League field and perch to the southwest on a rain-soaked bleacher. The same direction Mexico is taking Japan in extra innings, hills away in Williamsport. Christmassy and alien. A new drill rig juts up above the trees on the hill behind the schoolhouse, where I sleep on a mattress on the floor, in a high school classroom. My table lamp glares through the window, perfectly aligned with the tower lights. This gas drilling would be good work for the kids who graduated from this high school instead of going into the service to make good. But they all probably got farm deferments. It's the same difference. Each of these well pads takes the place of how many farm boys coming home from the Arab oil wars in body bags? You do the math. Times what we left over there. At least we got water. One of the spokespeople for the gas industry explained to us what fracking was. It's when you drill down and then you can drill using high pressure water with chemical solution to break open the wall of shale rock like pages of a book to let the gas out. When the solutions for separating the pages of shale are as pure as your saliva, when the pipelines are trenched by holistic satellite beams, their arteries grown from soy, when our hayfields yield the same gross income as a well pad, the size of a decorative garden ornament, when the trucks tearing up these roads are tearing up sandboxes with the sputtering lips of kids, don't worry. The lifeblood of this planet will still be out of our control. The bitching about it will be just as loud. Here's what scares us. We don't know what's going on. We know what's going on, but we don't know all of what's going on. We know what's going on, but we don't know who's doing it. I mean, we know who's doing it, but we don't know who exactly is doing it. We don't know their names. We only know the company names. The why is obvious. It's the how that leaves us a lot of questions, even when they explain it to us. Even when their spokesperson goes on TV, even when they parade their heavy equipment past our farmhouses at breakneck speed, even when they let us watch from the fence in our cars, afraid to get out, especially when they come to our door with papers to sign. What scares us is their uniforms. Their uniform trucks and their uniform masculinity, the uniform air of their unified occupation, the ununiformity of their money, uniform cash flow, ignitable youth with muscle, calling it water and buying us off to drink. What scares us is we have laws to protect us, but they buy off the laws. They buy off the commissioners who regulate the laws that protect what we have to live with. They write the fine print loophole, a small opening through which small arms may be fired. The scary part is we know how to read. It scares us we don't know what to do. We don't know who to talk to about what scares us. We don't know who to contact. We don't have a number, and when we do, we get referred. We get rerouted. We get put on hold. We get frustrated. Then we start yelling, saying things we can't explain. That's what scares us, how angry we've gotten with no one to explain it will go away. It won't go away. Like it doesn't matter to anyone, except our neighbors when they used to be our friends. Except our families when they used to be our friends. Except our friends when we didn't live under occupation. Especially our friends who signed and moved away. What scares us is our daughters. Since water is, there's three things in life I love. I love people working, and I love people making money, and I love drinking water. And you would think in this lifetime, these simple three elements would be right there for us. I'll read a poem. These poems range from 2011 to 2013, 14. And then finally, a poem that I wrote last summer, 2015, after the entire gas works had played itself out. There's very little drilling now. The trucks are gone, minimal. And it appears the industry has left for this phase. When they come back, it'll come back much larger. But this poem from last summer, called Never Mind the Trucks. The kid next door is shooting his .22 at the trees, maybe a squirrel. I'm further back in the woods shooting my old man's 12 gauge at orchestra sheet music close-pinned to a cord stretched between trees. Creating musical compositions with titles like Marcellus Camp for Students, Utica Shale Wells Going Gangbusters, White Paper on Using Mine Water for Drilling, monthly headlines from our regional newspaper. My buckshot peppers the staves designating notes that you, the cello, you, the oboe, English horn, clarinet, harp, or piano, depending on your feeling about the title, give this music its timing. Drilling boom sparks rise in water testing. Never mind the trucks. If we started talking about the trucks, the orchestra would never go home. The kid down the road from the kid shooting birdhouses got sandwiched on the hill in his SUV between a parked water truck at the blinking light and a runaway truck behind him that lost its brakes. A stint in Iraq, a stint in Afghanistan. That kid comes home to get killed on the street he grew up on. The dad of the kid shooting field mice works for the gas. Called each company to don't dare run a truck through Springville the Monday of the service. 200 Marines and 7 fire companies with state police followed that kid under crossed ladders draping the flag to the cemetery. I love irony, especially the obvious. Drillers open ears to communities. Natural gas faces long road to overtake diesel. One rig worker fell. One rig worker from Texas fell. And co-workers used his cell phone to dial 911, but got Texas 911. He didn't make it either. Either did the kid whose dad bought him an ATV with his first gas check. Either did PJ's or Mary Lynn's or Southtown Market or the filling station at Elk Lake Or Summer House Grill, or half the stores in Montrose that didn't go fire retardant and steel-toed and Tex-Mex, drill bits. The kid next door just shot something with glass in it. I'm saving that sound for percussion chimes. 64 paces back from these music sheets. When the wind blows, when I fire, the staff lines jizz sideways. Between the hollows, our blasts rumble with the loud gearing down of trucks on the hill. Never mind the trucks. I'll play as if I had work to do and splinter the asphalt I'm playing it on. Thank you.